Welcome to this tutorial on how to fetch URL query strings. So what I've done is that I have created a basic page that renders data from a particular array, in this case cities. So right here I have an array holding cities, and the idea of what we're trying to do is in such a way that when we visit a route to show us a particular city, we're going to have the city name and its location as query strings. So let's see how to dive into this. First of all, just for clarity, we want to do something like this, something that would show and say city is equal to Lagos, something like that. And we could even have an additional one that will say and location is Africa. So we are trying to see how to retrieve these query strings such as Lagos from city and Africa from location. So let's dive straight into this. For better optimization, it's best to use Next.js link to be able to create this kind of link that would run this kind of output for you. So how we're going to go about that is by, on the cities route, we are going to import link from next link, and then right over here we're going to add a clickable link, and we're going to say visit city route. Okay, that should be visit city details route. Now I wouldn't just insert a simple href here that shows only or that holds minor data. In this case I should be visiting this route called city details, but I could better optimize this, city details. I could better optimize this. If I do it this way, it works just fine, but I wouldn't go about it like that. So if I visit that city, you see it lands me there, but it's missing query details. I understand that you could simply just switch this around and use a template string, but Next.js has an inbuilt way of actually optimizing the query strings into this particular link we're trying to visit. So what we have to do is to remove this, and we're going to call a dynamic data there. So in this case we'll be calling an object, and this object has an inbuilt property from Next.js called path name. So on the path name we are going to specify the route that we want to be taken to when the user clicks on that. So it's going to be again city details. Okay, now what about the queries and their strings that we need to carry along to this route? So how we specify them is by doing you call another inbuilt prop called query. Now in this case we're going to pass an object. Now this object is going to hold all of the query and their strings that we want to pass into this particular link. So in this case, if you have just one, you could simply just specify it. In this case I'm calling the query string, so you can call it whatever you want. So in this case I'm calling it city. Then what would city be? Remember we looped here to get each city, and I like to take us again to show us what that holds. So we have title, location, and description. So what I would like to do is to call city, in this case, dot title. Remember I said that this could be anything, so you could simply say C. It could be anything, but let's make it obvious, city. So this is it. If you wish to provide more queries, you can go ahead and add more queries. Okay, I could add location, so I'm going to say loc whatever you want, and city dot location. All right, that is it. So now I am going to hit the back button and click on a particular city once again. So this is a link, and by the way, we could make sure it is obvious that this is a link. So I could quickly write a style. So I would say BG sky of maybe 500, okay, and padding all around of maybe 1 would do, and rounded MD. Okay, so now it looks more like a link. So I would click, and now see what it does. It takes me to the route called city details. This is the route, and then I have my query here, the first query called city, and this is a string, and another query called log, and this is a strange value. So next thing we have to do is to find out how do we get a string from a particular URL query. So we could do that on the server side in Next.js. We can also do it on the client side. So I'm going to start by showing you how to do that on the client side, and after that I introduce you to the server side. So let us visit this particular file on VS Code and write the code. So I would visit that over here, and now we are on the client side. So what I'm going to do is to import useSearchParams, and mind you, that's coming from Nest navigation. So I import that. Next thing I'm going to do here is to create a constant, and I'm going to call this, I could actually create a constant of an instance of useSearchParams by saying param or params, and I'm going to say useSearchParams bracket open close. Now I'm going to fetch the things I need from this one. Okay, I'm going to fetch them from here. So let's say I wanted the city that was loaded there. Let me assign it to a constant. Let's call it Q city, that is query city, and it's going to be params dot get. Okay, then in here I'm going to specify the query. So you have to make sure you write the query exactly as it appears here, this or this. All right, so I would say city. So let's see what it gives us by doing a console.log, and we're passing Q city. Okay, so I'm going to save changes, then open my console, and right there I can see that I have Lagos. So let's go back to cities and click on another city. Let's click on Tokyo, and right there I've got Tokyo. So what about if I needed a location lock? So all I have to do, I could simply just duplicate this and say Q lock, then right over here I will change that to lock, then change this to Q lock, and when I visit that, let's see what it gives us. It gives me Asia. That's good, that means it's working. So now I could come right here and specify the name of the city that was called. So how do I do that? Call that and pass in Q city, and we check out the browser and it gives us Tokyo. Now what about the description? The description was not passed as a query. Okay, so that means we need to find a way to get it from cities. So this is the description. So what can we do about this? We could write a filter that would get that for us. Okay, so but that may not be so necessary. So but I can as well just write the code. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say that if I only want to perform that filter if city was set. So I could use either the city or the location to retrieve it. So I just need something unique. So I will stick with the city. So I'm going to say that if city was set. So I could say that as long as city is not undefined or no. So I would say Q city is not undefined, or as long as Q city is not null. What am I going to do? I am going to fetch description, and mind you, I'm going to head over here, create a variable to hold description, and for now it holds an empty string. Okay, so if this is not null, I will go ahead and filter. So I'm going to call on cities. I will have to import it here. So import cities. Then I'm going to say that cities dot filter. I will simply say item, where item dot where, excuse me, I made a mistake right there. Yeah, so where item dot title is equal to the title that I retrieved from the URL, in this case Q city. So I say Q city. Now this is going to return an array as the end result. So what I could do is say that I want to get the very first thing from that array, and when I get it, I would like to reassign it back to description. So I'm going to say description and that. Okay, so I will save changes and refresh my browser, and it gives me nothing. So why does it give me nothing? So let's hit the back button and just try another city. It doesn't give anything. So now let's reevaluate this code. It says if Q city is not undefined or Q city is not null, go ahead and do this. Oh yeah, of course it's not going to work. So what would this give us? This will actually return an array, like I said. So let's see if that's what it returns. So I'm going to do here console dot log and pass in DSC. It should return an array. Yeah, it returns an array. And if it returns an array, we shouldn't try to pass in an array in here, and mind you, we still need to output it right here. Okay, so we only need the description. So in that case, I'm going to say here again dot, I could assign this to a constant first of all, const result. So then here I'm going to say DSC, I'm assigning something to it, result dot description. I think this is an easier to follow method. So then now all I have to do is over here, I'm going to pass in description. Awesome. So let's see what that does. Good, it's working just perfectly. So now how do we do the whole of this thing we did here? How do we do it on the server side? So what I'm going to do is this. I would comment all of this, comment this, let's comment this one, so that we work it out on the server side. We can as well just remove them. So I would remove, let's keep this one, let's keep this variable. Okay, great. So now what do we do? All we have to do for the server side is first we're going to change this to use server, and the server components are usually asynchronous, so I'm going to switch this to async. Now for us to be able to retrieve queries, we also need to provide here search params. Okay, remember this page is asynchronous, so now we're going to create an instance of this in this place, and we're going to say const params, and I'm going to call on search params. But since this route or component is asynchronous, this would return a promise, and if this returns a promise, we have to make sure that we await the promise. Now, how do we then fetch this particular query called city? How do we get it? So how we're going to get it is this. Mind you, if I save changes and disable this, let's wait for it to load, and it says Q city is undefined. Yes, is undefined. I will remove that there. Okay, so now how do we get this query or the location query? So we're going to get it from here. So I would say const again Q city, and all I have to do is to say params dot city. Once again, you have to make sure you specify this, write it exactly as it appears here. Okay, so let's check if this works fine. So I'm going to do a console.log, and I'm going to call in Q city. Now this, we'll have to check this out on the console here. So I can see right there, it outputs it. So if you also want to get the location, you can also do the same by doing const, let's call it Q log, and this will be params.log. And again, I call on here Q log. Alright, and I see Africa right there. So this is working just perfectly. So now we would continue by heading over here to say that if Q city is not undefined, okay, if it's not undefined and this is not, or it is not null, so we're going to go ahead and query, and then here we're going to call on Q city and here description. So we save that, and there we go.